Today, Bitcoin climbs to the $85,000 level to start a new month and a new quarter. Crypto investor Chun Wang is headed to space after buying a private SpaceX expedition. Plus, Hut 8 CEO Asher Genoot and Eric Trump explain their new Bitcoin mining partnership. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Mackenzie Sigalos. Crypto prices are in the green to kick off the month of April as investors await clarity from President Trump's tariff policy, which is expected to be unveiled tomorrow. As of noon Eastern, Bitcoin climbed more than 2.25% to the $85,000 level. Ether also moving higher back toward the $2,000 mark, and XRP rose 2%. Taking a look at crypto-focused stocks, many are in the green as of noon, with Strategy climbing more than 6% even after Monness Crispy Hart downgraded the stock to sell from neutral. The equity research firm argues that the company's convertible issuance plan is likely tapped and established a price target of $220, which implies a roughly 23% pullback from where the shares ended yesterday. As for Bitcoin miners, all were trading higher by more than 2.5% as of midday, with CleanSpark rising the most by more than 8%. The moves higher come even after a note out today from JP Morgan that said U.S.-listed miners shed 25% of their market cap last month. Now, turning back to major cryptocurrencies, most are ending March in the red, with Bitcoin losing more than 1%, notching back-to-back monthly losses, and the cryptocurrency's third negative month in 4. XRP lost more than 1.5% in back-to-back monthly losses, and Ether lost a whopping 17% in its fourth negative month in a row. Crypto investors are looking for clear growth drivers this month to help pull Bitcoin out of its recent funk. Bitcoin is coming off its first 3-week slide in 2025 and capped off a volatile March below where it started the month. In fact, Bitcoin lost more than 11% in Q1, its first quarterly loss in 3, as the impact of higher U.S. tariffs and growing worries over a slowing global economy have overshadowed positive regulatory signals and endorsements from the Trump administration. In recent years, April and the entire second quarter ending in June have been negative for Bitcoin. For example, in 3 of the past 4 years, Bitcoin ended the month in the red. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. Buying Tether in Europe just got a lot harder. As of today, Binance restricted its stablecoin offerings in the European Economic Area to comply with MiCA, the regulatory framework for digital assets in the region. Now, besides Tether, delisted stablecoins also include FDUSD, DAI, among others. This is in line with what the company announced in early March, and with guidance by EU regulators to comply by the end of Q1. Other exchanges who have delisted Tether and other stablecoins in the EU include Coinbase, Crypto.com, and Kraken. Now, we reached out to Tether but didn't hear back right away. Next, crypto investor Chun Wang is currently in orbit after Elon Musk's SpaceX launched the first human spaceflight over Earth's polar regions. The multi-day mission, commanded by Wang, took off last night on a Falcon 9 rocket carrying a crew of 3 other private astronauts. He bought this private polar space expedition through SpaceX back in August. Now, in the mission dubbed Fram2, Wang is leading a group flying end-to-end over the Earth. He invited 3 Arctic specialists to join him, including an Australian explorer and guide, a Norwegian filmmaker, and a German researcher. Now, SpaceX does not advertise the price of its crewed missions. NASA previously disclosed that a crewed mission could cost more than $200 million. Wang confirmed that he paid for the mission, but declined to specify how much. He's kept a low profile for the most part, and his unspecified net worth appears mostly, if not fully, tied to work mining crypto. All right, sticking with the topic of Bitcoin mining for our main story. The Trump family is expanding its portfolio of crypto businesses. We told you yesterday that President Trump's eldest sons are investing in a new Bitcoin mining company, which is controlled by crypto infrastructure firm Hut 8. I spoke with the CEO of Hut 8 and Eric Trump this afternoon to find out more about this partnership. Asher and Eric, thank you both for being here today. Asher, I want to start with you because I want to understand how this deal came about and when the two of you began talks.
It really happened through, I want to call it life and right place, right timing. Eric and I have met. We have a lot of mutual friends, and we sat together and started chatting about, I said, why crypto? Why Bitcoin? Like, talk me through what the origin story is of your deep passion for this space and for this asset class. And as we dove deeper and deeper, we started sharing our journeys through building US Bitcoin Corp and now running Hut 8. And he's like, I love your side of the business as well. I deeply understand infrastructure. I deeply understand construction. He talked about kind of being raised and growing up on construction sites and being a part of the development ecosystem. And so as we got closer and closer, we said, is there a world for us to do something together? Can we bring these passions together and build something? And he brought up that he was building and starting American data centers. And so that the conversation started snowballing from there. And that's where we ultimately decided to bring these two forces together and form American Bitcoin, which is what we shared with the world this week.
And Eric, you've been diving headfirst into the industry in recent months. We've seen you and your family get involved in multiple crypto projects.
Yeah.
American Bitcoin is just the latest. Why are you and your brother interested in the mining space now, and how does it fit into your overall crypto strategy?
You had banks and you had the modern financial industry in this country that tried to put our family out of business, that tried to put so many people out of business because they didn't like their political philosophy. And we were the most canceled company probably on earth. It actually is what drove us toward cryptocurrency. You realize that cryptocurrency couldn't be weaponized. You realize that cryptocurrency was a lot faster. It was a lot more pragmatic. It was a lot more transparent. It was exponentially cheaper. And it made me realize that, really kind of the crypto world is really the future of the modern financial system. There's no question about that. Bitcoin is truly digital gold. It's the greatest hedge you could possibly have against, hard assets. And we are a hard asset family in that it's immediately liquid. You can transfer it anywhere around the world. You can take it anywhere around the world. It's 24/7, 7 days a week. It's an unbelievable store of value. And again, real estate is my bread and butter, but real estate's none of those things. If I want to go sell a hotel, it could take me 12 months to do that transaction. It's illiquid. Now it's a great store of value, no question about it, but Bitcoin is almost the perfect complement toward the world that we love so much. And so between kind of being forced into an industry, having a lot of like-minded people in that industry who were also getting absolutely meleeed by the very people who were coming after us, it brought together kind of a unique allegiance. And Bitcoin and Hut 8, what they do, they're phenomenal at what they do. And it's kind of the perfect synergy between myself, Don, and a company that's already amazing, where you go out and do great things.
Now, Asher, obviously the margins in Bitcoin mining just keep getting smaller and more competitive. How does this new venture stand out in an already crowded field?
The key with Bitcoin mining is to be the lowest cost operator at scale. And so when we came together, we said, look, we're not starting a new company, American Bitcoin. We're actually carving out the majority of our assets. We're putting them into American Bitcoin, which is already, Hut 8 is already a leading Bitcoin miner in both the US, the public markets, and globally. And so we're taking that foundation and we're saying, let's put fuel on the fire here and let's accelerate and let's grow. So for us, it's continuing to maintain the history of being a low cost provider and operator. We did that at US Bitcoin Corp. We merged with Hut 8. We've done that at Hut 8 over the last year as we've shown the public markets. And now let's continue to do so. But what's even more interesting, what's even better, is now we have a secret sauce. The secret sauce is Hut 8 is the energy infrastructure, digital infrastructure platform. American Bitcoin is the Bitcoin miner. And so why that's important is investors who invest in Hut 8, shareholders who own Hut 8 will be investing into energy infrastructure. They'll expect a lower yield on a less risky asset. And so the cost of that capital goes down. On the other side, on American Bitcoin, investors are investing for Bitcoin exposure. They're investing to be able to mine Bitcoin for cheaper than you can buy it for and to accumulate Bitcoin on the balance sheet and have that exposure. And so now you have a much bigger platform having different investors invest in different parts of the business. And overall, what we believe is allowing us to be a leader in the sector and in the industry.
Eric, I'm curious who's advising the Trump family on crypto ventures. Are there some people in the industry that you've been speaking to in particular? Where are you getting your advice?
Yeah, I think at this point, I know almost everybody in the industry in some way, shape, or form. I fell in love with the industry, a few years ago and really dove, head in. We did World Liberty Financial well over a year ago. As you know, I think you reported very well on that. And, obviously this is kind of the latest venture. And, the industry has come to love us, right? I mean, we were supportive of the industry over the last several years when very few people were. There was a war on that industry. Gensler went out and, they were throwing people in jail. They were going after people. They were suing everybody. Banks were closing down people that just wanted to own Bitcoin. I mean, they were literally debanking people because they wanted to own cryptocurrency and they believed in kind of modern finance. And again, it was a very kind of unconventional coming together, but the industry really embraced us. And I started working on this several years ago, and we've met so many great people throughout that venture, and not the least of which is Asher on the screen right here. And so, I think it's less about who's advising you. You can look out to the future and you can see that this makes sense, right? You can look out to the future and realize that modern finance is broken, right? You can look out and see that, the banks. I mean, why do the biggest banks have the tallest buildings with the biggest signs overlooking every single city in the country? I mean, isn't that a little redundant, right? And they're not doing anything quickly. I went out and I got a small mortgage on a house when interest rates were 2%. I felt like a schmuck not taking the money. And it took me 100 days to go out and get a mortgage. I mean, can you imagine how punitive that is to the average person out there that might not have our resources or might not have our net worth? Filling out paper forms. Why is any of this still done? And when you look at the crypto, kind of world, it's going to revolutionize finance, and Bitcoin is going to be the greatest store of value. I just have no doubt in my mind about that because it has so many advantages. And last but not least, you go around the world, everybody's doing it. Every single sophisticated country is using their excess power to mine Bitcoin. And so there really is a race to the finish, but we've got a great competitive advantage as the United States of America. We've got the best energy policies. We've got some of the lowest energy costs anyway. And I think we can harness that. And I think America needs to lead the way in terms of this kind of financial revolution. And that's part of what I plan to do.
And I think you hear it in Eric's voice here. There's a deep passion for this space, right? When we were talking of Bitcoin, he's like, I own a lot of Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin. And he talked about the background of why crypto. And so this is more than just, okay, a business opportunity, a business venture. I think that's the key here. We align ideologically on what we believe in. And we said, is there an interesting business that we can build that allows us to do so? So this is the intersection of crypto, specifically Bitcoin, the intersection of energy and the energy that fuels a Bitcoin production through the compute, and then hard, real infrastructure as well. And so I think that's a key. And that's why when we were talking, we're like, he's like, it was HUD 8, Eric Trump co-founding this business together. And now we're going to go grow and scale this company and show the world what it's capable of.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today, but we'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.